Welcome back to the shop. It's been a while since I've done a build video, and I thought I'd share this one that I did building a mid-century modern desk for my father-in-law for his birthday. So if you have any suggestions, comments, please feel free to leave them below in the comments. Any comments are welcome, and enjoy the video. Thanks for watching. The wood I'm using for this project is walnut. And the walnut came from a friend's backyard. She had cut a tree down and asked me if I wanted it. So, of course, I said yes. So, all I had to do is transport it up to my house and get it slabbed out and dried out. And what we did was we put anchor seal on the ends to keep it from drying out too fast. Then we stickered it and strapped it down with some ratchet straps, put it in a friend's barn for about a year and a half. Then I went and took enough wood for this project out and had it kiln dried the rest of the way. And so the wood came out really nice. It wasn't too badly bowed or cupped or anything like that. Very few imperfections, and really worked out nicely. So here I'm just face joining the one side of the slabs for the tabletop, and then I'll run them through the planer to make them parallel and get them to the proper thickness. After the boards were milled up and sized, I needed to glue up the desktop, and so in order to do that, I used my Festool domino joiner. And that's a neat little tool that allows me to insert these dominoes into the inside of the, between the joints and align them up almost perfectly, if not perfectly. And what that allows me to do is to get these so precise that I have very minimal flattening to do with the final desktop dimension. And so then it's on to the glue up. And for the glue up, I used Titebond 3. I usually use Titebond 3 for things like this. It's very good glue. It's waterproof. Not that this thing's going to be out in the weather, but it's very strong. And I've never had a joint fail using this glue. So once I did that, I took it over to my local hardwood store, who also has some equipment in the back, and they allowed me to run the tabletop through their 40-inch wide belt sander to do the final flattening. It only took about 6 or 7 passes, and it was done. Came out really nice. Once I had the desktop to where I wanted it to be for this stage of the project, I went on to the frame, and the frame is it's made of 1-inch by 2-inch pieces that I used a template. I cut out a bunch of templates to make sure that all my parts were exactly the same. And so once I cut the template out, I transferred the markings to the rough lumber. Then I cut them down into little pieces, and so I could handle them easily on the bandsaw. And so what I did on the bandsaw is I cut the pieces to I cut just barely outside the line. And what I did then was use the templates, would put them on the individual pieces with double-sided tape so that I could use a flush trim bit router to cut them to their final shape, and that ensured that all the parts were exactly the same dimensions. I will say that I probably should have used my router table. It would have been much more efficient. I was just kind of lazy and I didn't want to set it up. So here I am with the handheld router doing the final shaping of these parts. Next up was dimensioning the stretchers, which is pretty straightforward, and then cutting everything to length and lining everything up, and using my domino joiner to do the joinery work. I use the same type on 3 glue for strength. And once I had everything dry fit and put together, I took it all back apart and then started my glue up. Glue up was fairly straightforward. Wasn't very difficult. Have a lot of clamps. Uh, you can't have enough clamps, obviously. And so once I got done with that, it was on to the next phase. I need to mention that before I did the final glue up of the frame, I rounded over the corners because if I waited to do this until after the glue up, it would have been a lot more time consuming. And once everything was assembled, I had to do a little fine tuning with my Lee Nielsen 5.5. Then we finish it up with a little sandpaper and we're ready to finish. I use Natura One Coat for the finish. It's the same concept as Rubio Monocoat, but it's about 2/3 of the price. So I saved a bunch of money using that. I got it through Amazon and it came in pretty quickly, so I'll leave a link to it below. Once I confirmed with my father-in-law that he did not want to keep the live edge, I cut the desktop to its final size using my track saw. Next up, I needed to construct the drawer banks. And the two drawer banks required a bit more wood than I had. I miscalculated the amount of walnut I needed. And so I needed to go to the local hardwood store and get some more walnut. So that wasn't cheap, but I did it anyway. And here I am working on that, dimensioning the individual pieces. One thing to note here is that my planer only has a 13-inch capacity, and these boards for the drawer banks were larger than that. So I needed to get them to the correct thickness somehow. So I used my 3.25 horsepower router with the 2-inch flattening bit. Then I was able to go ahead and finish up the dimensioning of the boards. Once the dimensioning of the boards was complete, I started adding dominoes. Now it's off to the router table where I'm putting in a 1/4 inch by 3/8 inch reveal that we will see in the end product. And now it's time for some more dominoes and the final glue up. You'll notice that I'm using painter's tape. I always find it easier to put painter's tape on prior to the glue up in situations like these. It makes it so much easier to remove any squeeze out that might occur. And then I don't have to go back and sand into corners and that sort of thing. Time for some threaded inserts to attach the tabletop to the frame. You'll notice the hardware I'm using includes an oval slot that will allow for seasonal wood movement. Attaching the soft close undermount drawer slides was fairly straightforward. I just used a piece of scrap quarter-inch plywood for the spacing of the top slides and got those in just a few minutes. And now it's time to construct the drawer boxes out of soft curly maple. I'm the first to admit I'm not the greatest at hand cutting dovetails. So I use my Porter cable jig to do it for me. Here I'm cutting in the slots for the drawer bottoms. A little chamfer on the inside of the dovetails makes for easy assembly. And as before, I'm using Titebond 3 for the glue up of the drawer boxes. One thing you may notice here is that I had gotten the tails and the pins reversed. So the pins were not going to be visible once I put the drawer faces on. It's a bummer, but I'm sticking with it. To finish the drawer boxes, I used some spray on polyurethane. Instead of breaking out a compressor and my spray gun and all that, I just grabbed a couple of cans at the local hardware store. And then it was on to installing the clips for the drawer slides. Next came the drawer faces. I was careful to try to align the grain in some sort of a nice match so that the finished product would be a good transition between the two drawers on each side. I picked out some brass drawer pulls from the local hardware store, and I think they look pretty good. I really love the color of this Natura One Coat clear and the way it made the grain pop. But I wanted to make sure the top was very durable. I want it to last years and years for my father-in-law. So I decided to put a couple of coats of clear polyurethane on it. Again, I didn't want to go through the hassle of setting up my sprayer. So I got some Minwax satin finish lay flat polyurethane that was fantastic. Once I rolled it out with a foam roller and used a foam brush and it dried, there were no brush marks whatsoever. It came out perfect. And with that, I was done. All I needed to do was take it up to my father in law's house and put it in his office. And he absolutely loved it. And this was a great project to do. It was fun, it was not that difficult. Anybody can do it. So thanks for watching. Enjoy the glamour shots, and I'll see you on another build video.